Hello students, welcome to the video tutorial of Informatics Practices for class 12th. Today we'll be discussing the first chapter, that is the Python Pandas-I. In your Informatics Practices book of class 12, the Python Pandas has been distributed under these two chapters, that is Python Pandas-I and Python Pandas Part 2. Okay, so as per the last year syllabus, due to the COVID cutoff, the syllabus was reduced to only Python Pandas 1, but till now we didn't have any update about the reduction of the syllabus. So accordingly, we are going to study both the parts, that is Python Pandas 1 and 2. So today we are discussing the first part of our first chapter, that is Python Pandas 1. Okay students, so let's continue with our chapter. So first of all, let's move to our contents of the Python Pandas 1. So in this we'll be discussing about the introduction part first. Then we'll be discussing about how we can use the pandas, or what are the basic summary tools to use this pandas function and the library of the pandas. Then we'll discuss about the pandas data structure and the basic data structures which are involved in this pandas, which is given in the syllabus, is the series in the data frame. So first we'll be discussing about the series data structure, that how we can create the series object, how we can create the series objects with the additional functionality, and few other things about this series data structure. Then we'll move forward to the data frame data structure, and then similarly we'll study things related to the creation and the display of the data frame. Okay, then we'll display about the data frame attributes, then selecting or assessing the data, that can be according to the columns, that can be according to the multiple columns, and so on. Okay, then the addition and the modification of the rows and columns are there, and deletion and the rename of the columns of and the rows are there. Then further we'll discuss about more functions which can be there in your syllabus according to this boolean indexing. Okay, so the creating data frame with the boolean indexes, and then accessing rows from the data frame with boolean indexes. So that's all for the contents which we have to study in this Python Panda as well. Okay, so let's move to our introduction part of the chapter. So here we are going for the introduction. Yeah, here the Python Pandas 1 introduction for you. Again, the outline is mentioned, that is what are the things which you are going to study. That is the introduction and the pandas, and that which we have already discussed. Okay, so let's move on to the introduction. A Python pandas, or the Python pandas library, is the library for the data analysis. Okay, so basically whatever the things we are going to study in this chapter is going to be regarding the data analysis. Okay, so pandas has derived its name from the panel data system, which is an econometric terms for the multi-dimensional structured data sets. Okay, so whenever we are dealing with the multi-dimensional data structure sets, we need a Python, you can say, library, and here that the name of the library is the Python pandas. Okay, so today pandas has become popular choice for the data analysis. As you must be aware of that, data analysis refers to the process of evaluating big data sets using analytical and statistical tools so as to discover useful information and conclusions to support business decision making. Okay, so why we are going to use this Python pandas, and what is the basic use of this Python pandas, is to use things for the data analysis. Okay, and when you are evaluating the big data sets, that is the huge data sets which are based on some analytical terms or the statistical terms, so we need to get a meaningful information from all those things. Okay, and it is very beneficial for the marketing purpose, or you can say the decisions which support the business, or you can say business making decisions. Okay, so all these things are very important, and for doing or to get the access of these things from this statistical analytical terms, we need this Python pandas library. Okay, so pandas makes available various tools for data analysis and make it a simple and easy process as compared to the other available tools. So the main author of the pandas is Wes McKinney. Okay, so the name you have to remember, that the main author of the pandas is Wes McKinney. Okay, so that's all about the introduction, that why we are going to use this Python pandas, and what is the basic, you can say, theme for using pandas, that why this pandas is getting much more influence in the market in today's scenario. Okay, So Pandas is an open source BSD library built for Python programming language. Pandas offers high performance, easy to use data structures and data analysis tools. In order to work with Pandas in Python, you need to import Pandas library in your Python environment. Okay, so first of all, whenever you are going to use this Pandas, as per the things which we have studied in class 11, we were using the IDLE interface, that is the interactive development and learning environment. So in that we were not having this pandas tool. So what we need to do, we need to get this pandas tool as an additional library. Okay, so for that we need to go for the things which has to be imported from a particular set of libraries. Okay, so for that you need to go to the script folders, which I have already discussed in the Zoom classes with you. Okay, and even if you are facing any problems with downloading it and to install that libraries, we can make a video for that also. Okay, so once you are installed with the pandas library, whenever you are going to use that library in that particular function program, you need to write this line, that import pandas as speed. Okay, now if you have once imported this function, you are good to go with the pandas library. Okay, and that pandas library is going to provide you few things which we can discuss here, that why we are going to use this pandas. So pandas is the most popular library in the scientific Python ecosystem for doing data analysis. It is capable of many tasks, including that it can read or write many different data formats. That is, the data is in the form of integer, float, or double, etc. Anything. These type of data is easily readable with the help of this pandas library. Next thing is, it can calculate in all the possible ways data is organized. That is, if the data is in the form of the rows or it is in the columns. Anyway, if you organize the data in the form of the rows and the columns, the pandas is capable of uh, reading that data. Okay, then it can easily select subsets of the data from the bulky data sets. So if you are having a large set of data, okay, and you are trying to get the subset of those data, so that is also possible with the help of this pandas library. And even it combined with multiple data sets together. Okay, also it has the functionality to find all the missing data. So if you are having a particular data which is showing a pattern or a trend, okay, and even if a particular data set is missing from there, with the help of this pandas you can use, or you can fill those missing values also. Okay, it allows you to apply operations to independent groups within the data. Okay, then it supports reshaping of data into different forms, which you have already studied in NumPy also, that with the help of NumPy functionalities, if the data is in 1D array, we can reshape it to 2D array. So things are possible in pandas also. Okay, so it supports advanced time series functionality, and the term here advanced time series functionality is referring to the forecasting. Okay, so if you need to predict the future values from a particular data sets or the observatory data sets, it can be done with the help of this pandas library. So that is why it is making it a very strong tool. And from the features also you can understand that if you are good to go with the pandas and you are knowing the different functionalities or the functions which can be used inside this library, so you can access too much information from it. Okay, and you can also manipulate the data accordingly. You can predict the data, you can have a look of the missing values. Okay, so all these things are going to be easily possible because of the pandas library. So let's move to the pandas data structure, that what this pandas data structure actually is. So before discussing about the pandas data structure, we need to understand the meaning of the data structure. So data structure refers to the specialized way of storing data so as to apply a specific type of functionality on them. So whenever you are saying the word data structure, so data structure is going to refer to a specialized way, okay, for the storing of data. So whenever you are having a data and you want to store it, so you need this data structure, and you can apply a specific type of functionality on them with the help of these data structures, depending upon which type of data structure you are using. Okay, if a particular data structure is being in use, so we can use a specific function according to that data structures. So we can store the data into that particular data structure, and then we can apply some specific functions over the data structure. Okay, so data structure is particular way of storing and organizing data in a computer to suit a specific purpose, so that it can be accessed and worked within appropriate ways. Okay. Now moving forward, let's discuss about the two basic data structures, that is the series and the data frame. So in this series and the data frame, we are having these two options. That is, if we are talking about the series object, we are having an index here and a data here. Okay. And when we are talking about the data frame objects, here we are also having the index, and the data is not in one dimensional but multi-dimensional. Okay. So that is what the main difference lies between data structure and the series and the data frame. That when you are talking about the series data structure, that means in that case you are dealing with a one-dimensional data structure. Okay, so it is going to have an index field and a one-dimensional data. But when we are talking about the data frame object, a data frame object is again having an index field, but the data field is spread into the forms of rows and the columns. Okay, so basically you are talking about a 2D data structure. Okay, so let's see the key points of differences between the two data structures, the series and the data frame. So both of these data structures are the part of this pandas library only. So if you are having the pandas library and you are good to go with the functions of the pandas library, you can use these two series and data frame objects. Okay, so let's first discuss about the dimensional properties. So when we are talking about the series, it is one dimensional data, and then data frame is having two dimensional. Okay, the two dimensional here is the form of the rows and the columns. Okay, then types of data. So series is having the homogeneous type of data, that is all the elements must be of the same data type in a series object. But when you are talking about the data frame is a heterogeneous, that is the data frame object can have elements of different data type. So I think it is clear to everyone that what is the meaning of the homogeneous and heterogeneous. You have studied in class 10th also, in science also, homogeneous solution and heterogeneous solution. Okay, different things. You must have heard these words earlier also. So whenever we are saying about the homogeneous type, that means a data which is having similar type of data. Okay, all the elements must be of the same data type. And when we are talking about the heterogeneous, then it is different. That means the elements of different data types. So series is going to have this homogeneous data types and data frame is going to have heterogeneous data types. Okay. Now see, there is a word here, elements must be, and here it is mentioned can have. Okay. So homogeneous means the series is going to have a must condition, that is homogeneous elements, but the data frame may have or can have elements of different data types. So even if it is having similar data types, you are not going to have a problem with this. Okay. But here you cannot have different data types. It is sure that you must have a homogeneous data sets. Okay. Talking about the mutability. So in class 11th, we have studied about the mutable and immutable data types. So here we are, you can say, breaking the word of mutability in two parts. That is the value mutable and the size mutable. So whenever you are talking about the series object, so series object is value mutable, that is their elements values can change, and it is size immutable, that is the size of the series object once created cannot change. If you want to add drop an element internally, a new series object will be created. But when you are talking about the data frame is value mutable, that is the other elements values can change. Okay, and the size mutable also, that is the size of the data frame object once created can change in place. Okay, so the big differences between series and data frame is already mentioned here. So you can say on the dimensional basis, the series is one dimensional, data frame is two dimensional. When you're talking about the type of the data, the series is having the homogeneous type of data, that is all the elements are having the similar data type. But when you're talking about a data frame, then it has a heterogeneous data type. Then talking about the mutability issues, so the series is having the value mutable and the series is having the size immutable. That is, the values can change, but the size of the series object cannot be modified. If the length of the series is 5 or 6, then it is going to remain 5 or 6. Okay, it is not going to change. But when you're talking about the data frame, so the size of the data can also be changed. That is, elements can be exceeded also, and it can be deleted also from the data frame, and also the values of the particular elements can also be changed. So the data frame is having the property of value mutable and size mutable both. Okay. Now when you are going to use this pandas function or the pandas library, you have to write this line import pandas as PD. Here the PD is the alias name, okay, or the short name you can say. So you can use an identifier name in place of PD and NP, but PD and NP have been preferred choice generally. Okay. So whenever you are talking about the PD and NP, it is generally a preferred choice. So it is not necessary that you have to use PD only. You can use any other alias name also. But here, preferably, we are going to use this PD and NP. Now, there must be a question in your mind that if we are studying about the pandas, why we are studying about the NumPy? So there are certain programs which will involve the NumPy functionality as well. Okay, so in that case, you need to import the NumPy functions also. Means if we are talking in general terms, then we don't have to import NumPy. We can directly import pandas and we can run our program. But there can be a situation where we need this NumPy function also. So for to using that NumPy functionality, we need to use this NumPy library as well. Okay, so according to the situation, both of them can be imported. So this is the must import function for the programming in the series in the data frame, and this may be an optional term depending upon the situation. Okay. Now moving forward with the series data structure. So a series is a pandas data structure that represents a one-dimensional array like object containing an array of data. So the NumPy array is quite similar with the series data structure. Okay, so when we are saying about the term series data structure, the series data structure is you can say directly pointing towards the one-dimensional NumPy array. Okay, so the series is having an additional functionality of the indexes. In NumPy array also you are having the indexes, but here the indexes can be modified according to the choice of the programmer. Okay, and even if you are not mentioning the indexes, it is going to have a default indexes which is similar to the NumPy 1D array. Okay, so a series type object has two main components, that is an array of the actual data and an associated array of the indexes or data labels. So here you can see three examples. Here you are having the indexes field also and the data field also, but each of these example is having the data field in one dimension only. Okay, and other dimension is for the index. Okay, so here the index is 0, 1, 2, 3. Here the index is January, February. Here the index is in form of A, B, C, D. Okay, so you can have the indexes according to your own choice as well, but the data is to be in one dimensional form only. It is a must condition for the series. Okay, so how we can create the series objects? So for creating the series object, we can use the empty series object also. Here the empty itself is telling you that it is having no values. Okay, you can just use the series function. And here one thing which has to be kept in mind is that the series s should be in capital. As you know that Python is case sensitive language, so that a small s and capital S can make big differences for you. If you are going to write a small s, then it is going to produce an error here. Okay, so whenever you are talking about the series object, in that case you will write a capital S. Okay, right now we are discussing about the theory programs or the theoretical terms, because right now we are going for the explanation or the introduction. Once we are okay with the introduction and the means you are used to this particular terms of this chapter, will move forward with the programming as well. Okay, so I will be writing few codes here and I will be explaining through the help of codes also. Okay, so starting we will do with the help of this theoretical part. So here we are saying about the series object which is empty. Okay, so for that you can write like this: obj3 is equals to pd dot series, and then you are using this parenthesis here. Okay, so obj3 is actually a object name. You can write any object name here, and then you have to write pd dot series, and that series s should be in capital. Okay, and then once you have written this, then when you are going to run with this and obj3 and you're going to press enter, so you'll get an output like this: series and d type 64. Okay, now if you want to create a non-empty series object, then in that case you must have some data there. You cannot have the no value, you should have a data there. So for that data we have these following things: that is, a Python sequence can be used as the data, an ND array can be used as the data, a Python dictionary can be used, and a scalar value can be used. Okay, and at the same time we can provide the index also. If we are not providing the index, it is going to have a default index as well. Okay, So it is an optional for argument for us that if we want to give the index or not. If we are giving the index, then it is taking the index according to our choice. But if we are not going to provide the index, it is going for the manual choice, sorry, the default choice, and it will give the indexes 0, 1, 2, 3 by its own. Okay, but the data can be according to the choice of the user or the programmer, that he wants to give the data in the form of the Python sequence or an ND array or a Python dictionary or a scalar array. Okay, so I think that's it for today, students, for the introduction part. From the next video, we'll be discussing about several examples at how we can create this series object and how we can modify certain sets of data. Okay, that's it for today, students. Thank you, everyone.